Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio presents Holzer's Ghosts. And tonight we're taking a look at Season 2, Episode 12 that just aired last Saturday on Discovery Plus, Dead Calm. The Hungry Ghosts of the Queen Mary. This by far was probably one of my favorite episodes of the entire year because I've had a chance to be on that ship about 15 times prior to this visit, and I've always been there for these large-scale events on a fully packed ship full of passengers and crew members and a lot of nightlife. And this was a very disarming visit to be aboard this beautiful ship, this grand old lady of the sea, and there was no life. There was a lot of afterlife, but it was really an impactful and unusual episode to get a chance to film. And we were the very first paranormal team in history to get full access to an empty ship. Since it's been ported there in 1967, nobody's been afforded this opportunity, according to the Commodore and the employees of the ship. So it was very exciting for us. So if anything good came from the current medical crisis the world has been plunged into, is that we got a chance to do a full investigation of this stately ship and get a chance to dig deeply, following into the footsteps, of course, of Dr. Hans Holzer, who visited there in the 70s. And when they visited, they picked up on a darker energy. They picked up on a lot of the different spirits that have been reported on the ship at the time, and he wrote copious notes about it. But they confronted something a little darker. In all the years I've been there, I've never had anything really dark occur. There's been some moments when you get a little unnerved. Many times people are frightened in their rooms because the bathroom sink will turn on by itself, maybe even the shower. Toilets will flush on their own. And if you've been aboard the Queen, you know you have to turn knobs and push buttons to get things to work. For them to just switch on their own, that tells you there's something powerful. And there's not just one haunted part of the ship. It seems these spirits have free reign over the entire ship. I was first introduced to the Queen Mary, probably the way most of you in the paranormal field became familiar with it. There was a little TV show on the Sci-Fi Channel called Ghost Hunters. You might have heard of it. And they visited the Queen Mary. And there was a lot of controversy swirling around that episode, and some claims that they believe that some of their equipment had been tampered with, and that the paranormal activity they caught on footage was, in fact, faked. Somebody had messed with it. And our guest tonight, who's going to join me in just a few minutes, became kind of a focal point for a lot of this anger and resentment and people blaming her. And she had no hand in any of that. At all. And she has been a delight to work with. She's been a guest to our Darkness Radio events at the Queen Mary. She is a medium and an inspirational speaker and teacher and life coach. And she worked aboard the Queen Mary for many years, and has some great stories to share. And I wanted to kind of clear the air and start off discussing a little bit about Ghost Hunters and what took place, and then we'll roll into what you saw on Holzer Files. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Erika Frost. Erika, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dave. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on your show.
It's great. Boy, it's been about a decade since I think you visited with me on Darkness Radio, so I'm glad we got this chance again.
Yeah, it's been a really long time. It's good to see you.
Now, if I recall, it was room B340, which is where I spent my solo adventure, that this shenanigans took place during the Ghost Hunters visit. Why do you think, kind of the anchor of the negativity ended up getting centered on you for this?
I've asked myself that question for decades. Honestly, I think they just needed somebody to pin it on. And, it seemed pretty logical at the time because it was a small space. And if anybody has ever met me before, they know that I'm quite short. So, and I strangely enough, though, at the time, which is what I think is really interesting, I did not know the ins and outs of the Queen Mary as well as they assumed I did. And I didn't even know that there was a secret door to B340. So I guess they were just needing someone to pin it on, and I happened to be that person.
Now, I want to clarify, when Erika's talking about somebody needed a scapegoat, she's not necessarily talking about the cast and crew of Ghost Hunters. It was the fan base, really, that kind of that were abusive. And I remember when I reached out to you to be a part of my first event there, of course, Peter James was a guest that I had invited. We had struck up a friendship, and he passed away a few months prior to our first event, and you were kind enough to step in and fill that. But I remember you telling me something that really kind of broke my heart. You said, Dave, I'd really love to do this, but I've had death threats from the paranormal fan base. Is that true? People were threatening your life because of a paranormal TV show?
Yeah, I was so shocked. Before I started with the Queen Mary, I was just on my own journey to really discover some experiences that happened to me. And, I believe nothing happens by accident. And I ended up meeting the CFO of the ship, and through sharing my near-death experience with him and some of my own intuitive abilities, he was like, I think, we could have you come aboard the ship. And I really wasn't prepared for the journey that I ended up taking with the Queen Mary. And like I said, the first, I think, 2 months I was on the ship, and the Ghost Hunters team came, and then I got death threats, and that's when the Queen Mary had to hire security. Ironically enough, I had a personal bodyguard for a little while, which was, I was very grateful for. And I was just really taken aback by how, human nature, I guess, people need to believe in something. And then when their belief system gets shaken, then they have to find something to get angry at. And that happened to be me.
Right. Well, again, if I felt, and what I've got to be honest with you, Erika, we kept an eye on you like a hawk at the event that we hired you to. But what I found was funny is I knew some of the haters, and human nature going as it is, I watched those same humans that despised you and mistrusted you kissing your psychic ass aboard the ship and wanting photographs with you and hanging out with you, and you won the crowd over very eloquently by showing the grace that you have on board. But I think people got the feel that was maybe orchestrated, and it should not have been pointed in your direction. Now, I don't want to belabor that, because again, you're so much more than that 2 minutes on film that you were 15 years ago. I was so excited because I didn't know we were able to get you for this episode. And I walked in, and there you were, and it was a great reunion moment for us to share. But I want to ask you, and then we're going to bring on Cindy in a few seconds.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to be aboard the ship empty?
Yeah, honestly, Dave, that was a wild, wild experience. And, as it was revealed in your show, I left the Queen Mary because of some of the things that you encountered. And it was intense. I really had to hold strong in my, energetics and protective fields, and not engage in any of the energies that were present, because it was intense.
Yeah, that was it. It felt different to me. And again, not being mediumistic or psychic in nature, and I know Cindy will yell at me in a minute. Yeah, you've got abilities, Dave. You just don't use them. But I don't flesh them out like you two do so eloquently. But there was definitely a different veil over the ship, and to even sit down with the Commodore, who was a lovely man, and talk with him, and to see the love and the passion and the understanding and the history. And then you could see he was affected by the energy shift aboard the Queen Mary as well. And that got a little unsettling for me. Yeah,
I was, when I had seen the Commodore again, after, years being away from the ship, I could see in him as well that there was a definite shift and almost a sadness, and understandably so, because it's just, I don't even know how to put into words the heaviness that was there, taking the place of the Queen's life, really.
Right. And that's a good jumping off point. First of all, I got to tell you, the most paranormal thing for me aboard that ship is that the Commodore sat there in August in full dress attire and did not break a sweat. I was sitting there in shorts and my leather jacket and shirt so that I could be filmed from the waist up. And they had to keep toweling me off because I was boiling to death. That guy literally did not break a sweat. And what was so amazing about him, when we sit down to do these interviews, I usually spend about an hour with a person. And I talked to the Commodore for 3 hours in that initial interview. And I probably could have talked to him for 3 more. He had so much information on the history, which I don't feel that we gave enough nod to in the episode. So I do want to cover this, folks. Listen to this interesting bit. So the Queen Mary was commissioned to be built. They started construction on it, and then business stopped. And there was this grand vessel with all this heart and promise. And as it's 3/4 of the way developed, they just stop.
Yeah.
And then it finally gets built and becomes this prestigious luxury liner and is teeming with life and people aboard it. And so that and help me out on this, Erika, you'll probably remember this better than I do. The Queen Mary, was it 2 or 3 times larger than Titanic?
It was in between, about 2.5 times larger, which is, it's incredible to think about, because the Titanic in its own right had its own, has its own story and grandness. And so, yeah.
So it goes from the shell to being forgotten to this luxury liner to kind of being decommissioned. Then it becomes a warship and becomes the Gray Ghost and is used for troop transports. And I got to tell you, we were on the ship with 6 of us and I couldn't stop sweating. Could you imagine being a service person on that ship? And they were, if you see photographs, they are crammed asses to elbows on that ship. I don't know how anybody survived the heat from that alone, but that was insane. It becomes this wartime ship, then becomes this war bride ship, right? Where they start shipping war brides and children over from overseas, and it takes on this new life. Then in 1967, it finds its final resting place here, docked in Long Beach, California, and it becomes this grand hotel. And it has had lifeblood forced through it for well over 100 years. 150, 160 years this grand stately ship has existed and always had some kind of energy passing through it. And then now for COVID to shut it down, I think the Commodore had told me at one point that at that point, which was only, I think, 6 or 7 months in, that was the longest this ship had been kind of decommissioned since it was built.
Yeah. It's interesting as you present the Queen's life this way. It really is like a life with ups and downs and ins and outs, and it's no wonder that there's so many aspects of paranormal activity happening on the ship. It's not just an object that was around. It actually has this massive emotional history.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. And folks, I do want to mention Shane and Cindy were going to join me tonight. Shane is unfortunately in Georgia, where they are getting severe weather and they've lost power. They've lost internet. He was unable to join me tonight, but he's going to join me next week for our season finale. I believe we have Rob Toth, our director of photography, joining, and a few other special guests. Perhaps I can even drag Cindy back in for our season 2 season finale if she's not too busy settling in. So Shane will not be here tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, we have got with us from the Holzer Files, the medium you love the most, ladies and gentlemen, Cindy Kaza. Hey, Cindy.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, Cindy.
Cindy, Erika, you guys never really got to meet aboard the ship.
No, we didn't, because her scene was before my scene, so I didn't even know until I watched the episode. I was like, "Oh, who's that? That's cool." It's always how it always is. I have no idea what happens until I see the episode.
Right, and it was that's how separate we keep everybody apart. We didn't want mediums standing there looking at each other and sending telegraphic messages to each other.
You mean telepathic?
Yeah, what I said, telepathic.
Yeah, it's all the same thing.
But Cindy, you'd been aboard the Queen Mary before.
One time. I think it was about 2 years prior, one time. Mm-hmm.
But to come back on board, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, what was it like this time compared to last time? I mean, just getting on there, was there a weird sense for you?
It was totally different, because the first time I was only really in one room for the entire night. I got to walk around a little bit, but I definitely didn't see the entire ship. So I didn't have exposure to really any of the places that we had gone, except for the one room. And so it was amazing. I mean, it was a totally different vibe. It was.
Uh-oh, Cindy's frozen. The spirits are already beginning to screw with us. There you are. We lost you for a second. You said the spirits were, and we lost you for a second. So what was the rest of your comment, Cindy?
I don't know. I said it was eerie, right? Because it was, we were the only people on the entire ship. And, it just has a different energy. And it's so big and dark and just, it was intense.
And we kept saying it felt like the ghosts were hungry. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. I know that sounds corny and like a horror movie cliche, but without the lifeblood of passengers and employees and the historians and the mediums and the tour takers passing through those doors 24/7, how does that work for the spirit world, especially a place that's so rich in environment, Cindy? Is it like they're starving?
Well, I have to tell you what happened the last time I was on the Queen Mary, the last and only time prior to the time we were on the Queen Mary, is I was doing part of an event where they were doing paranormal investigation, and I was there as a medium, but I was just in this one room, and different groups of people would come to me at different, times in the night. And so I'm supposed to be tapping into the Queen Mary, but I wound up bringing through like everybody's dead parents and grandparents. And then there'd be like a random Queen Mary. I'm like, oh, your grandpa's here. And it was just right, because that's what happens when there are people in the room. You never know what's going to happen. It's all fair game. So to be on the Queen Mary when there were, no other people except us, I was able to really tap into the essence of the ship way more than I was before. Yeah.
Like I said, I've had a really interesting and storied visitation to the ship. For 15 years. I've been there multiple times over the years to investigate, and it meant something to me. My mom passed away almost 5 years ago, and she loved the Queen Mary. She would go to every one of my events aboard the Queen. And although I couldn't feel her there, I knew she was with me through that to be there. I carry, for people that do watch the show, if you ever see on my wrist, I've got a crucifix that hangs, and has my mom's ashes in it. So I took her to the Queen Mary to enjoy kind of our visit there together again. So she would be there for my latest visitation. But it was off the charts. And to give, I don't know, even if I had told both of you this, just to give our followers and listeners a little backstory, the kind of activity that I was used to aboard the Queen Mary. Obviously, I'd seen sightings and other shows with Peter James talking to the ghost of this little girl, Jackie, in the first class pool, where he would be standing there and you could physically hear this little girl calling back and forth. I went with Chris Fleming, the medium, to do this event. And one of the first times he crawled into the pool, and he's standing there holding a Barbie by the hair, and she's hanging there. And he's like, do you want to play with this Barbie? There's nobody around. And you hear this little girl go, yeah. And Chris goes, and he starts looking around like, what the hell?
No, right?
Right. But it was just one word.
Yeah.
But what blew us away was, as we became more familiar, and I think it was the second night, we're in the pool, and my job running this event is I would move from haunted location to haunted location to check up and make sure nothing weird's going on and everybody's safe. And I just come into the pool area. We're about 5 minutes before the swap out, and there's this group, and we're talking, and all of a sudden you hear this little girl start singing, London Bridge is falling down, and everybody stops. And I remember Chris looking around, and he goes, who's doing that? Guys, don't screw around. Don't do that. Who's doing that? And everybody's standing on the layers looking at Chris. And I'm like, dude, I think everybody's accounted for. We had about 20 people here, and there's like 20 people. And we're like, is somebody playing it off their phone, doing something silly? So we usher them out. And Chris and I are, even for a medium, he's like, somebody was screwing with us. The next group of kids, or not kids, but the next group of investigators come walking down the hallway to us. And as they walk in, Jackie starts singing again, and everybody just froze. And you could hear this little girl, and Chris's eyes welled up with tears, and he's like, he turned to me and he goes, holy shit. I can't believe this is happening. What, Dave? So I walked around looking to see if the Queen Mary had speakers built in somewhere I was not aware of that might be pumping this in to freak us out. But it sounded like it was right there with us singing. So that was my first what the hell moment. The second one, I walk in, Patrick Burns from the TV show Haunting Evidence is leading a ghost hunt. And I walk in and everybody's all in a circle kind of looking down. And I thought, oh no, somebody passed out. Somebody's possessed. What's going on? I walk over and there's 3 K2 meters on the floor. And those are those little boxes with the lights that go up and down on them. And there's 3 independent K2 meters on the floor. And I look at them and I'm like, okay. And they're talking and Patrick's like, Dave, this is crazy. She's responding. We've found this way to communicate. So she affirms. So all the yes answers, she lights up the K2 meters. Watch. Jackie, do you like ice cream? And they would all light up. All 3. Do you like chocolate? Nothing. Do you like vanilla? Nothing. Do you like strawberry? Blink, 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 blink. That's awesome. Did you guys hear that? She loves chocolate. Nothing. Oh, I meant strawberry. Blink, 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 blink. But I do know that there's an internal flaw. If you have some car key starters, the RF frequency can set them off, or a cell phone. So I'm thinking somebody's having a good joke here. So I communicate with her a few more times and light up all the blinkers. And then you can't manipulate just one because the RF frequency is going to pick up all. So I look over, and Cindy would have loved it because it was a Dave getting put in his place moment. I look and I go, this is so cool, Jackie. Could you do me a favor? No, just light up the middle one. And then the middle one lit up. And then I looked over and I said, now just this one on the left and just the left one. Now the one on the right and the one on the right. And I said, Jackie, light them up. And all 3 went through the roof. And I'm like, what are we witnessing? Because I don't know of a tool you can use that can directionally signal 3 side-by-side K2 meters. Now, it's also important to note, these were owned by 3 separate people. So it wasn't one guy who might have a remote control that could work all of them. They were 3 different people. And we sang to her. So we start singing. I go, you know what, Jackie, I bet it's been a long time. You always sing. How about if we sing to you? Blink, blink, blink. And I go, we start singing Happy Birthday. And the lights are going like an equalizer on a stereo. So happy birthday to you. And it's lighting up. And we're like, this is amazing. Women are crying. Men are shaking. It's just, everybody's like, what is going on? We come back a few years later and the Booth brothers are there filming. And Andy Kopic has this thing called the induction probe. And it's like a K2 meter that buzzes. Okay. So kind of like the Mel meter, but it makes this bzzz sound. And he's talking to the ghost and it's buzzing. And I'm looking for him moving. Is he touching something to make it buzz? But it would get so loud and obnoxious. And then we'd ask her to back off and it would back off. But even when she wasn't, you could always hear this back crackle of the induction probe. So I say to her, Jackie, remember me? Bzzz, great. Last time we were here, we sang Happy Birthday. Did you like that? Bzzz. How about this time you sing to us? Bzzz. I said, can you sing Happy Birthday? Bzzz, 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 bzzz. And he's holding it perfectly still. And everybody's like, this is crazy. And I go, how about now can you do London Bridge? Bzzz, 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 bzzz. And I'm like, how is somebody doing this? So it gets done, and literally people are weeping. They're so overwhelmed by this moment. And I go, well, that's really great, but how about a little Inagata Davida by Iron Butterfly? And it goes, bzz, and even the back crackle stops. And I remember Andy Kopic looking up at me and he goes, I think you broke our ghost. And everybody does that. We all start laughing. And then you hear, bzz, bzz, and I turn around and I go, bullshit. How would a little girl from the 1900s know Inagata Davida? So everybody's kind of laughing and blown away, but they were filming. They were on top of him looking for trickery. They couldn't find any. It was insane. Like I said, water faucets going on and off. When we were walking through the halls, Erika, doing this episode of Holzer Files, nobody's on board the ship. Everything's powered off. We're walking down the halls and TVs went on in 2 of the rooms as we passed them.
Wow,
and I'm like, did you guys just see that? Mm-hmm. So again, they didn't show it because it's like, it was already on, as we're walking by, it's on. So the camera's already missed it. They're just like, keep moving. And we had our way around the ship, but it was so bonkers. And it's always been that way. There's all this great activity that has taken place, but it's always been that kind of light activity. And one other interesting moment that Erika and I shared, we were there with our friend Bill Murphy from the TV show Fact or Faked, the Paranormal Files. Mm-hmm. And it was just, I think, 4 of us, and we were in the front of the ship where there's this weird croaking noise. Did they ever figure out what causes that croaking noise? And we didn't hear it, Cindy, but it literally was like this. Whoop, whoop. There's no sea creatures they know that could make it. They could not find where it would come from. So we're sitting in this, and we're very low lighting, and we're sitting there trying to see if we can hear this croaking noise. And behind us, we're talking, and I said, it always kind of broke my heart that I couldn't meet Peter James. I really wanted to meet him. And as we're talking, you start hearing, and I'm looking around, I'm like, is that one of you guys? And they're like, no. And I'm like, do you hear that? Yeah. And I go, is that the croaking sound? And Erika's like, no, that's breathing. And you can hear this. And Erika, I think you were the one that said, you just said that you wished you could meet Peter James. And at the end of his life, he had a lot of breathing issues. I think he's here. And we could hear him standing right. It was kind of like when we did the seance in the one episode, Cindy, and we heard that little voice off to our side. You could hear the breathing, and it was like moving around us. So that was a really fun, powerful moment to realize, I guess Peter's still here, which was kind of a cool little element. So that's why I said, coming aboard, it's always been fun. I've always been surrounded with friends doing this. And then to come on board the ship to nothing. And just a weird vibe. I was trying to question myself. And did you have to go through this too, Cindy? Am I just psyching myself out because the ship's empty and it's all pitch black?
Well, right. And the thing is, what I was going to say before, when you were talking about how Chris was, when he heard the external voice, he freaked out. Like, people will say, well, you're a medium. Like, why does that freak you out? It's like, you don't understand. Normally we hear it in our minds or we feel it. So when we hear disembodied voices, we're like, what's happening? It's, so mediums don't know everything, and we get freaked out too. I think people think that we should just not be freaked out by anything. But anyway, yeah. So, and I'm a medium, but I'm also skeptical. Like, there have been plenty of investigations where I've heard something and I'm like, who did that? Where, and there's nobody there. So I think my natural inclination is, while, I'm surprised or I'm amazed at what I'm hearing, I'm always like, did somebody do that? And then when you find out they didn't, it's mind blowing, and I think, I don't know, it's probably like this for you, Erika, maybe not, but when we work, we see imagery like clairvoyantly, or we feel, or, we hear, not external auditory. And it's kind of like playing Pictionary, charades, and telephone. You're trying to like put all these pieces together and feel what's really going on here. So it's a different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to confirm what you're saying, it's funny because, and I'm guessing maybe this is similar for you as well, but it's always internal. Like you said, it's always internal. So then and I don't know about you, but I'm constantly doing self-checks, and I'm like, wait a minute, am I just going crazy? I'm hearing this, I'm feeling this, I'm seeing this internally. Is this real? Is this logical? No. And then all of a sudden you hear something outside of yourself, and everybody makes the same face that you make internally when you hear things internally, and you see everybody's expression. You're like, they heard it too. Oh my God. Finally, somebody's hearing what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Well, and for our listeners and viewers, for those of you listening, I'm sorry you won't be able to see this until you watch the season finale of the Holzer Files, which takes place this Saturday, March 20th. The episode is Devil in the Rock, the haunting of the Bates ship Chandlery. This experience that I'm about to show, a clip from next week's show, is the closest thing I can say to what happened when I saw Andy and the induction probe. This kind of action, and when we asked the spirit to back off, this is similar to what occurred.
Oh, yeah.
So here's a really cool, powerful clip to show you how much energy the spirits at the Bates ship Chandlery and Cohasset were able to expend. So let's take a quick look at next week's episode.
32.7, 43.9. That is something with a lot of energy.
He's just yelling at me, find my body, find my body, find my body.
136.
Holy, that's unbelievable. Okay, can you please back away? Thank you. All right, obviously we have a lot of activity taking place all around us here. I think this might be a good time for us to split up. Shane, you want to head up to the attic?
And of course, another moment of Shane looking at me like, go fuck yourself. You go to the attic, Dave.
Poor Shane.
Yeah, poor Shane. And you know what, Erika, I'm starting to feel your pain from Ghost Hunters, because I don't know if Cindy noticed this earlier this week, but on the Holzer Files fan page, there's a big post and it's like, I don't know about the rest of you, but how many people think Dave is a dick?
Oh, no.
Wait, what?
Yeah, because I always make Shane go to these horrible places. And I'm like, guys, again, realize he is an adult man. If he doesn't want to go, he doesn't have to go. But we send him to places where he's feeling energy. If he feels there's something there and it's unnerving him, why send me? I'm not feeling anything in that room. Let Shane go and have an experience. Let Cindy go where she's feeling pulled. And I've always said, I want to kind of be the background guy. I don't want to interrupt what Cindy or Shane are doing, because if Shane's feeling freaked out by an area, he's probably going to get some kind of activity. Cindy's going to pick up activity wherever she goes in whatever methodology she uses to communicate. And I've told Cindy, I said, I feel so useless on most ghost hunts because my job is trying to be quiet so I don't interrupt either one of their ghost hunts. And sometimes I have really cool moments for myself in that, but it's so funny to watch how that plays out. But I know they did it tongue in cheek with that post last week, but I get a lot of abuse over where I send Shane in every episode. That's next week, our season finale. I can't believe it's here. 13 episodes, 2 full seasons. If you guys love the show, please make sure you make noise about it. Watch it over and over and over. Just put it on constant loop in the background.
Put it on repeat over and over.
And every possible message you can on Twitter and Facebook, tag Discovery Plus and Travel Channel and tell them more Holzers. You want a season 3. We haven't heard word yet, so we don't know. Now, last year, I think it took about 60 to 90 days after the season wrapped up before we found out we had a season 2. Hopefully we'll hear back a little sooner, but we don't know anything more. I promise as soon as we know something, you'll all know something. So you don't have to keep asking all 3 of us, or actually all 5 of us, because I know Gabe and Alexandra get a lot of the same questions. We're gonna go to break in a few moments here, but before I do, what would you say? Now, we talked, Erika, about, of course, the fact that your experiences went from pretty interesting to almost kind of diabolical. Things started to get really dark and heavy for you. What they didn't show, unfortunately, and I think it was because the audio wasn't picking it up clearly. Do you remember when you and I were having a conversation, we started hearing something banging in that area?
Yeah.
And it was boom, and it was off in the back, but we were all accounted for. And you could hear something when Erika would start bringing up certain points. We'd have to repeat those lines because sometimes her voice would be cut off with a boom sound.
Yeah.
And when you come back, and how long had it been since you had been aboard the Queen Mary?
Yeah, it's, oh gosh, years. Minimally 5 to 6 years. So. And
here you are back in the area where you've had some weird stuff happen, and you're talking to me, and we're starting to hear bangs and things are starting to move. What is that like for you to be in that moment again?
It just took me back to my final days with the Queen Mary, and it was a wild ride. And all of my intuitive knowings and spiritual guidance that I had learned over the years and was on high alert. It was like, my spidey senses were definitely guarding me.
Well, you were obviously visually bothered and got a little emotional at one point. But it was interesting. You started off very light and talking with me, and I could see you were just trying to be in the moment and enjoy this. But I could watch you become a little bit more and more unsettled as the interview went on. Did you have any after effect leaving the ship? I know that was a concern for you.
Yeah, thankfully I didn't. I've worked with a handful of shamans, and in fact traveled all the way to Peru to help heal some of this stuff, and just took some of the knowings and teachings into practice. So before I left and got in my car, and Cindy, you probably are aware of a lot of these types of different rituals. And and so I probably looked like some, whacked out person in the parking lot doing all of my cord cutting and
No, I'm down with all that stuff. It's like I've got two lives in the spiritual world. That's one of them. Mediumship is the other. So I'm in with you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So doing all that crazy, cord cutting dancing, and I was good, and I've been good. And just grateful that everything stayed where it needed to stay.
Cindy, you were in that same area where I interviewed Erika, and that's where you were getting the communication with the device. I want to ask you, when that device is behind you and it's going off, how did you not turn around to look at it? Because that was making me, I was sitting on the couch watching it going, Jesus, turn around and look at it. And you're just with your back to it. You're like, what are you on? And you're just like unfazed. And I'm like, I would be watching for some.
No, I was totally phased. So we filmed for X amount of hours, but that was going on for at least 30 or 45 minutes. So I was completely freaked out by what was happening. And then I was like, okay, well, we're going to communicate. Let's do this, So they probably cut it in after the initial shock or a little bit after. But it was probably the craziest experience I've ever had using the technology with my mediumship, because it was answering me directly, direct response right after I'd ask a question. It was wild. And even our camera guy Toth was on that one. So freaked out. We were both totally freaked out down there. Yeah.
Well, and then I've got to ask you, because I do have people ask me this a lot. So how come it's always when something weird starts happening, Cindy's like, I need to go check on Shane? Is it because you're really worried about Shane, or you want to get the hell away from whatever creepy shit's about to happen where you're at?
No, it's not like that, because that's actually a good question. I don't know. Maybe subconsciously I'm like, let me go find Shane. 2 is better than 1. No, it's really not like that. I think it's, there have been a few times really where I've just gotten these intuitions of oh no, something's about to go really wrong, or I'll hear it, or it'll come through the automatic writing. So yeah, it's just one of those things where you work with somebody long enough, you get intuitions about what's going on with them. The same thing happens with you. I'll sense things, and it's just part of the process.
I know. And I'm curious, what do you think the connection is with Shane so powerfully that you, in most episodes, it's like you're clicking along and then you're like, Shane's in trouble. And it's like Lassie's barking. Is Timmy caught in a well? Is Shane, is the barn on fire, Lassie? You make a beeline to Shane. Why do you feel that there's such a connection that way? Is it because of the time we all spend together, or just because the spirits are telling you?
It's a combination. It's a combination. And the other thing I think is that Shane is very open and intuitive, but doesn't, and I hope you're listening, Shane, doesn't quite fully understand his gift yet. So I think there's a little bit of a concern, because I know I can sense that about him. And I think I have this connection where I can sense when he's starting to really open up and he's not prepared for what's about to happen to him. But then other times it comes in through automatic writing, or it's a vision, or it's all of the above. So maybe it's just that connection with him energetically and his gift really starting to expand,
So you see different gifts. I see gifts that he's a lot smaller than me and can fit in creepy little places much better. That's my gift that I think he has. So that's why he needs to go to those places. Now, I do want to address one quick point before we go to break, though, Cindy. I take a lot of heat, and it's only been one episode I've ignored you when you're warning me. And that's when we were at the house where we caught the apparition appear on the stairwell. Yeah. And then it made its way up there. Everybody's like, "Why, Dave, you were so dismissive to Cindy." What people don't remember, and if you watch the timing of that, and I'm actually a little irritated that they edited it the way they did. If they would let the edit go just another 2 seconds, when you see that thing start swirling and then move around the stairwell, and this is from a past episode, Forever Home, it goes up the stairs. 2 seconds later, you hear Cindy go, "Dave, it's coming into the room." And I go, "Yep, I've got it on camera." And that's when it picked up on the SLS camera. Then you started warning. And at that moment, I was all about, this is happening. You're sensing something here. I don't have the gifts you have. I'm wondering, are they trying to get us out of this room? And, oh, Shane's in danger, or is Shane in danger? So I'm kind of walk in that line of, well, he is an adult man. If he needs to get out, he can get out. I want to make sure that we're capturing what we've got here. It's a weird dance, right? Because when you're getting activity, that's what we're there for.
Right.
But,
and it could be all those things, Dave, right? Because, I mean, we do have to take into account, like, sometimes the communication with a certain spirit, they're just trying to throw you off or get you out of a certain space, but I haven't felt that has been happening. Genuinely, when I feel concern for Shane, it's genuine. That's what I meant to say. Like, I really, there have been moments where I'm like, oh, this is bad. But the Queen Mary in particular, what was so terrifying to me about that particular situation was I saw the German man. I saw him so that, at the beginning, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's here. He's German. I know who this is now. And he was all around. And then all of a sudden he was gone. And then I was like, this is not good. This is not good. Because he was all there and then he was not there. And I knew exactly where he was going. So.
Thankfully, not to the other German guy, Schrader. He left me alone and took off after the weakest link. I'm kidding, Shane. We do have to take a quick break. I want to thank everybody. Last week on the show, I mentioned that I had a little package in my book. Well, I shouldn't say I have a little package. That came out really, really bad. Last week, I mentioned I have an item. I've got my book, The Other Side, which is a ghost hunting guide. You can see it's extensively thick, very hard to read. It's more like a pamphlet, but it's made to be easy to read and understand. And it's written for everybody. Don't let the word teen on the cover throw you. It's for everybody. Our publisher at the last minute wanted to cash in on the Twilight craze, so they slapped teen on the cover. But I've got copies of my book autographed, also a Holzer Files card autographed, and a Darkness Radio car decal. And if you're interested, the entire package is $20 to get my little package sent to you. If you're interested, just email me, dave@darknessradio.com. It's $20, $5 shipping and handling for as many as we have left. Or if you're interested in just the book, it is $15 and the $5 shipping and handling. So let me know and we can get that out to you. Just email me what you're interested in and we'll get those out. Dave@darknessradio.com. When we come back, we have two really creepy EVP that Erika has not heard and Cindy hasn't heard since the episode. So we're going to share those pieces of evidence following up on the creepy German man that she felt on board the ship. Stay tuned. We've got more coming your way. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio presents Holzer's Ghosts, Dead Calm. And welcome back to the program. This is Darkness Radio, your home for the best in paranormal talk radio. Hey, folks, if you have not heard, Terry Carnation, legendary paranormal radio show host of Dead Air, is returning to the air April 1st, and he is going to join us for a visit on the last day. What is it, the 30th or 31st? I don't remember how many days there are in March, but he's with us the day before April 1st, and he will be on the air talking about his work in the field. We're going to talk some supernatural news, his own experiences with the supernatural. Terry Carnation. If you're not familiar with him, go find him on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You're going to definitely want to be here. It's going to be a big show, and we'd love for you to join us. The legend himself, Terry Carnation, will be a part of Darkness Radio. That's later on this month. Tonight, it is Holzer's Ghosts. We're examining the season 12 or season 2. God, I wish it was season 12.
Wait, it was a premonition. It was a premonition. Hey, guys,
so.
We're getting renewed for 12 seasons.
It is
Dave,
season
you're
2,
so psychic.
episode 12. Now you know why I don't have the job or the kimonos. They say, Dave, if you could be right, we'd let you wear kimonos. But we've got with us tonight Erika Frost, who is the resident medium aboard the Queen Mary for many years. Cindy Kaza, the resident medium of the Holzer Files. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about this episode. Now, one of the parts, when we went into what was known as the Royal Salon, the Commodore had informed us that at one point this was used as a makeshift like hospital ward. And were you aware of that part of the history, Erika?
Yeah. I was very fortunate to be able to sit down with the Commodore and learn lots of history about the ship, which is amazing. So, yeah, I was aware.
I had no idea. Now, the Queen Mary, of course, suffered a few tragedies aboard it. At one time, it ran into another ship and split the hull, and there were quite a few of the POWs that were killed. Cindy kept picking up on the fact that there was a doctor that was a bit sadistic aboard the ship, and that he may have experimented or maybe not treated the POWs very well. And that was nothing that we were told in the history at all. That was just her psychic impression. So there's not much as investigators, Shane and I, can do, but Cindy has proven herself enough to us that we just go along for the ride and we try to back up her claims. So we started running an EVP session, electronic voice phenomena, for those of you that still don't know what that stands for. And we captured 2 EVP back to back. Now, to make it easier, it's going to go black screen. You're going to hear Cindy talking. She's like, yeah, there was amputations. I see them cutting off legs. And then what you don't hear is a loud bang. And I said, oh, that was a loud bang. And we talk about it. And then the words are going to pop up on the screen of the EVP that you're about to hear. And then we do a follow-up on that as well. But I remember this moment. It was really, I think terrifying is too loose a word. It was really unsettling. But let's go ahead. We're going to listen to that first EVP now.
A lot of amputations, leg amputations. That's really loud. We are in the rail salon and we are hearing what sounds like thumping and banging in either the halls or the walls around us. It's so messed up.
Yeah.
So you hear this voice, I killed them. I'm going to play it one more time.
Yeah.
A lot of amputations, leg amputations. That's really loud. We are in the rail salon and we are hearing what sounds like thumping and banging in either the halls or the walls around us. It's so messed up.
Wow.
So you remember that moment, Cindy, because you're actually the one that heard the EVP when I first played it back.
Yeah.
I heard the whispering, but you're like, oh my God, it said I killed them. And I'm like, what? And we played it back, and sure enough. Now, skeptically, I'm still asking, all right, I need more corroboration. Is that what was just said? We set off to do another EVP, and this really made my blood run cold. This is the second EVP we captured.
You said you killed them. Who are you? Did you enjoy killing those patients?
So messed up.
We're going to play that one more time.
Messed up.
We're going to play it one more time. If you're listening on the radio, it might be a little harder to hear. You hear this whispery voice say, yes, I did. Listen.
You said you killed them. Who are you? Did you enjoy killing those patients?
Everybody's accounted for. Nobody's allowed to speak during our EVP sessions. We've got our cameraman, our sound guy, Cindy, Shane, and I all accounted for. Nobody's speaking, and those were the EVPs we captured. Well, why didn't we show them? Because the story didn't lend itself to what we were uncovering, and we were dealing with the spirit of this woman in white, and we were dealing with some of the other aspects. But that's good, because that's what Hans Holzer believed, that there are multiple stories taking place in different areas. So we would love to get back there again, to reinvestigate and maybe dive deeper into that aspect, because there is this dark element. One of the security guards had shown us footage, and I don't know if they'd shown this to you, Erika, but there's nobody on board, so they're down to a skeleton crew, literally, of employees. And one of the security guys was walking the ship with his supervisor, and they came down the hall, and it was one of the suites, and I can't remember which suite. It might have been the Churchill suite. The door is shut, and you see the doorknob jiggling. Something was inside, twisting and shaking. So he takes out his phone, and he's filming it. Unfortunately, I think this guy filmed it on a flip phone. It was the most pixelated mess. You know, I could have drawn it better on an Etch-a-Sketch, but it just was so janky looking. That's why it didn't make the episode. But these guys were legitimately freaked out. And there was times that they'd be like, they would hear things or see things, TVs would go on in rooms, and they would just leave. They're like, listen, I'm paid to throw people off the ship and keep people out. I'm not paid to deal with this. And they would have multiple experiences, and we had people on board the ship at different levels doing that. Cindy, let's talk about this dark force that you were picking up on. Do you believe it was one angry, malevolent spirit like that? You know, I killed them. Yes, I did. Was it that energy, or are there multiple disenfranchised spirits that are upset?
Yeah, no, there's
Queen?
multiple. There's multiple because, right, I experienced the German, prisoner of war. That's what he was, who was super angry and just, attacking people. And then I experienced the doctor, who I believe definitely harmed patients and was doing really weird, inappropriate, unethical things. It felt like experimentation, honestly. It was just really, really bizarre. So I was experiencing that. So, look, like there are many different timelines to a location and many different stories. And as a medium, it can be confusing because you sometimes you don't know which timeline you're picking up on. You can be picking up on several at the same time. And as we've discussed before, Dave, like the concept of past, present, and future happening simultaneously, right? So there's something in there too. And I would never walk into a location and say there's just one thing happening here, because there are several things happening in every single location that you go into, for sure.
Yeah.
Erika, hearing that EVP, had you ever collected something that sinister before, or had people bring something to you that was obviously some spirit that enjoyed murder or enjoyed causing pain?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was there for not quite 10 years, and I took people through the ship, Thursday through Sunday night religiously. Holidays, it didn't matter. And we just kept going. So, yeah. And I've had opportunity where the ship was a little bit quieter, and then the ship was full of people. So there was an interesting dynamic to see how the energy ebbed and flowed. And I absolutely have experienced that. And in fact, just to confirm Cindy's, I've picked up on that, doctor, too. And, working with the Queen Mary, I wanted to be very respectful of, bringing to light the energies that, at least in my opinion, seemed or were deemed safer to interact with, because I felt responsible. Mm-hmm. And so I consciously made sure to keep some of this other stuff out of the mix. But anytime there was an intuitive person, other intuitives, other mediums and psychics would come on the tour, and it was always fun because we could collaborate. And like, yes, right. You're not going crazy. And while we can't find it historically, it's happening. And so, yeah, just wanted to let you know that you're spot on.
Oh, I love that. Like, I love that when two mediums, and it's like, that's why I love Holzer Files, because I can go in all these years later and see if what I'm getting can be, corroborated by Ethel and Sybil and all the other mediums. And it's awesome. I love working with other mediums. Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, I know this has happened for you, Erika, right? I've been aboard doing these live events, and every event I have it at least 2 or 3 times. Bless her soul. I mean, no disrespect. I've had sensitives walk up to me and they're like, I just want you to know, I crossed Jackie over. She's no longer on the ship. Her soul's and it's funny because it's like Jackie is quite the show person, right? People have physically seen her. They have photographed her. They have videotaped. They have audio recording her. And I'll notice that she, like, as soon as the medium has done this blessing, the ghost is gone. And then it's like, oh, the next dinner show's in 20 minutes, folks. And as soon as, hello, my lady, hello, my baby, hello, my ragtime gal, right? She's suddenly back out and performing and doing weird stuff for people. There is no record of a little girl dying aboard the ship. There is nothing. Do you believe this is a transient spirit that got trapped? Or do you believe that this is something taking on the form of a little girl? And I'll start with you, Erika.
That's a really great question. And there's a lot of layers, I think, that are happening here. Even down to an experiment that I did on the Queen Mary, unbeknownst to many guests, because I wanted to find out if we could create a ghost. And I think
that's interesting.
Yeah, I really do believe that we tell enough stories and the energy is going to manifest. Mm-hmm. And so while it could have started out possibly as a little girl that, once came aboard the ship and maybe died there or didn't die there, who knows, maybe the original medium that came to the Queen Mary back in the day helped her cross over, and then the stories just existed and reformed her energies. So yeah, either way, I find it incredibly fascinating and loved loved that her energies would make them known. So yeah.
It is a very powerful spirit, but she was not aboard. I couldn't hear her. I couldn't feel, I couldn't sense her when we were down there. As a matter of fact, I had a few other EVP from the pool area while I was there, but they're really low grade, and you could hear the answer, but it's really hard to pump up the volume. The other two I just played, you can hear pretty clearly. But I'd been in the pool area. I was looking for Jackie, and I got this very strong male voice going, "Get out of here. Get lost." And I'm like, all right. So I do want to make a quick mention. Folks, you saw the lovely little doll that I brought aboard, the Queen Mary, that I strapped the recorder to her leg and put her in there to be a part of this. Well, I've got that doll. As a matter of fact, I have both dolls that I brought in. Those were mine. I brought dolls and put them in there. I'm going to auction those off for Special Olympics. So starting tomorrow on Friday, you can check my website or my Facebook page. I'm going to have the picture of her up. And we had pictures of Cindy and I with her and everything. So I've got that. She'll be available, and I'm going to just go on there, find it. You might have to scroll down if you're really interested and you're listening to this next week. I'm going to keep this going from Friday this week till Friday next week. And at the end of the day, midnight next Friday, I'm going to look at who the highest bidder was, and I will contact you and send you the link to my son's Polar Plunge. And if you go make a donation and show me the donation and I can go see it, and your name is on there, I will send you the doll and get it out to you, the actual doll that we used aboard the Queen Mary. So if you're interested in getting a haunted doll from the Queen Mary and the one that we used on the episode, that's how you can do it. And it will start on Friday. So for those of you listening to the podcast, it starts today. Just go to Dave Schrader at on, I think it's Facebook is facebook.com/Darkness Radio Dave. Is the way to find me there. And I'll have that doll posted. So we'll make that doll available. And keep watching, because Cindy does some great work for charity as well with Kaza's kids. And I've got a few other haunted dolls that I'm going to drop in the next couple of months, and we're going to raise money for Kaza's kids.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. So I've people bring me all their creepy ass haunted dolls. I don't want them in my house anymore. My wife wants me to get them out of here. So I'll just make them somebody else's problem. You get to be my Shane. You buy it, I send you into a creepy place. So I'll have those up and you can do that. But right now, my son, who is a Minnesota firefighter, is doing the Polar Plunge for Special Olympics in April. He does it with his entire crew at the Minneapolis Firehouse. So we're raising money. I think we're up at around $2,800. If you're interested in donating, just straight up donating, $1, $5, $10, $20, whatever, just email me, dave@darknessradio.com. Put Polar Plunge and I'll send you the link. You make a donation. That'd be great. And then make sure you keep checking my Facebook page, Darkness Radio Dave on Facebook, for that, for the image of the doll, and then make your bid. But pay attention to what everybody else has bid, because if you come in at, I'll give you $28 and somebody's already at 280, you're not in the running. So pay attention to the highest bid. If that person defaults, I will go to the next highest bid, and so on. All right. So I've got that out of the way. I know I wanted to open up and make sure we've got time for some questions. But before we do that, I do want to show another scene for next week's episode. Again, season 2 finale of the Holzer Files, March 20th at Devil in the Rock, The Haunting of the Bates Ship Chandlery, only on Discovery Plus. And we were in Cohasset. And it was really cool because, you know what? This is where they filmed Witches of Eastwick. And
I didn't know that. That's cool.
As a matter of fact, the scene when Jack Nicholson's kind of being blown down the street, you see him go right past the ship Chandlery.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, he gets blown down. So it's cool that's the beautiful little town that was Eastwick. And I'll tell you, we froze our asses off filming this episode.
It was oh my God. It was so cold. I think I got hypothermia. Like I was like slurring my words towards the end. I couldn't feel my toes. It was, yeah,
it's glamorous work, this TV. That we do.
It's so glamorous.
So we're going to take one more look at another clip from next week's episode. So here we go.
Just give me 1 second here.
Okay.
I'm seeing a little girl being killed, and I see that the mother I feel that the husband was taken away from them, and I just see this little girl dying. I don't like that story at all. Wait.
What was that?
Is there footsteps?
There's nobody down here.
There's seriously nobody down here.
There's no way.
That is crazy. I swear to God, this place, it's not normal that I feel
This many spirits. There's something about the energy of this land that creates a space for all of these spirits to come in here. I mean, there is something going on here, for sure. I don't like it.
Make sure you tune in this Saturday to see the season finale. We speak to a gentleman who was one of the original caretakers there who refused to return because he was so unnerved by what had happened to him there. And one of the loveliest guys. Cindy is so on point on this episode. It is scary, the stuff that she uncovers. And we take to this ancient guy who's been around forever and knew the history and knew what we were coming up against. So it's a great episode. That's next week. Let's talk about the Queen Mary. We caught something. As a matter of fact, Cindy, were you surprised that they were giving us this clip to play as a teaser? It was our big holy shit reveal moment.
Wait, which clip?
Let's show it right now, shall we?
I get so confused. I don't know. Yeah.
So here we are. We're like, okay, we're going to separate for the night. We're going to each sleep in one of the most haunted suites on the ship, right? So they send me to B340. That's
this one. Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to go there because I'd never had a chance to investigate or sleep in B340. There was no sleeping to be done. It's flipping and flopping, and we all have our cameras set up so we could document what's going on. And I get so rattled. For those of you listening, you're not going to see the expression, go watch the episode. I don't even pick up my glasses when I get up. I'm just walking around in the hall. I could hear footsteps. Something's moving around. And at first I'm like, oh, is it maybe the director coming to get me? Are we done already? What's going on? But I could hear these footsteps. So I grab my camera and I go out to investigate. But what I love is I told people last week when I showed the clip, I said, and if you were real careful, you might have caught some really cool evidence. And if you just watch it, you don't know what's going on. It's not until we show it on the episode that you get to see this. So pay attention. If you have not seen this episode, spoiler, you're going to see what we caught. But as I go out to investigate and I sweep past one of the doors, we capture an apparition in the door. Let's take a look at that scene.
There's something out there.
I am definitely hearing something. It is so dark. I hear you moving around up there. Are you on the stairs? We are not alone on this ship.
Well, no ship, Sherlock. We're not alone. In the door frame, we capture the woman in white. What's so terrifying to me is I was standing 5 feet away from it. I saw nothing with my eyes. As I'm looking around and panning the camera, we capture that, and it wasn't, Shane was just going through it, and he was looking in the video for me to see if he could hear where the footsteps were coming from, and he said he had lightened the contrast on the screen. He hadn't even noticed that the first couple passes. It was when he lightened it up that he saw the woman standing in the doorway, and then she kind of turns and fades into the room. And it was really freaky for us to have that moment, but it was so cool to capture that. Erika, 10 years on the ship. Is that the woman in white? Is that what you've seen?
Yeah, I have. It's not, I've had a lot of people say, think of the woman in white as glamorous and, dancing on the dance floor and in this grand experience. And no.
That. Yeah. No.
That's the one.
Yeah, that was very weird. Well, Dave, show us that scene again. No, go watch it on Discovery Plus. Watch the entire episode, or rewind this if you're watching it on the YouTube channel. But go watch it. It's a cool scene and it's a great find. But again, I was blown away. I'm like, what? They're showing that? That's our moment. But again, if you don't know what you're looking for, you miss it. And it's so cool. That's how eagle-eyed, and I give Shane a lot of credit. People pick on him and, he's always yelling and screaming. He knows what he's doing. He might get unnerved and rattled, but he knows what he's doing. And he finds some of the best evidence, because Cindy and I don't want to pour through hours and hours of audio and video. Right. So that's the true hashtag poor Shane moment. Shane does most of that work by himself and spends the better part of 2 days alone in a hotel room, scrambling, looking through all this footage to see if anything looks unusual. I do have a bunch of questions that came in, Cindy. People are wondering if you had a chance to watch last week's Holzer's Ghosts episode that we did.
Oh, I didn't watch last week's. Oh, no. Sorry. What did I miss?
Sorry, folks. The secret's still out there. I sent it to you, and I sent it to you on Facebook, and I said, you might want to watch this video at this timestamp. There's a scene that I have to finally admit to you. It was not a scene that made the episode, but we'll let you go back and review that. Am I supposed to be
embarrassed? Is this a bad scene?
No, it was embarrassing. Well, okay, here we go. It was in the last episode when we were in the house where we found the secret passageway.
Oh, right. Yeah.
If you recall, we first found what we thought might be the secret passageway.
That one.
Lifting up the floorboard,
yes,
right? We thought it might be the tunnel to the Underground Railroad. It turns out that's just where they would go to service the pipes under their house.
Yeah.
I'm an older guy, Cindy, and laying down on the ground and getting up quick. Sometimes things happen. And it happened. It was and I thought, oh, no big problem, until you two walked into it. And Cindy goes, oh, something's dying down there. Oh my God. It smells like shit. What is that? It is horrible. If you notice, in the clip that I play the audio, you hear the cameraman laughing, the sound guy's laughing, Shane starts laughing. He's like, oh, and we actually sent Shane down in that hole for a second, Erika. He got a mouthful. I felt no. And I'm the only one like, this is perplexing. What a weird phenomena. So I may or may not have phantom farted. I'm not sure.
No, you didn't. I was reading the comments too. That's why I keep looking down. But people are asking some pretty good questions here.
Yeah, well, let's get into that. Well, I know we don't have a whole lot of time with you guys. Let me get in here. If you have questions, feel free to pop them up. I will do my best to throw them up on the screen. If you notice a question, Cindy, feel free to throw it out there. I'm looking right now. What does this one say? Tanya Fulton says, hey, Cindy, Erika, and Dave, my 11-year-old nephew is strong medium and wants to do paranormal investigations with us. We've taken him once. Do you feel investigation is okay for him? I would feel better if he owned the other side of Teens Guide to Ghost Hunting and the Paranormal. I would feel, as a matter of fact, email me and I'll send him a free copy. But go ahead from the mediumistic side. What do you guys think about an 11-year-old investigating?
Well, here's the thing. It's like if you have an 11-year-old kid who's seeing ghosts or spirits all the time, he's already experiencing the spirit world. What I would recommend is to get him a mentor, somebody that he can develop his gifts with, because at that age, it can be very confusing. And I've been telling my students, I teach mediumship too, right? That, at that age, you're still in a situation where you're trying to figure out, you're discovering yourself, right? And so if you have all these other things influencing that, it can be very, very confusing. So he needs a mentor for sure. And then ask the mentor. But I would honestly hold off just a little bit until there's a little bit more development and in there with a mentor. Yeah.
A mentor. Yeah. If only we knew some mentors. Oh, erikafrost.com. That's one site you can go examine for yourself. Or perhaps mediumcindykaza.com. She does do lessons as well online so that you can sign up and learn and start to get the feeling for this and feel if it's okay. I'm going to say this. I took a lot of heat when I wrote the book, co-wrote it with Patrick Burns and Marley Gibson, because people are like, teens shouldn't be, and we should be protecting our children. And I always stop people and I go, think about it. When did you have your first paranormal experience?
Very young.
Yeah.
When we're young, it wouldn't be great to have a guide that can walk us through some of these pitfalls and pratfalls. This isn't all about fun. There's a lot of warnings in here and ways to protect yourself. And I should actually show this in light of what we just talked about a few seconds ago, because there's a funny photograph of talking about finding different evidence aboard or finding different evidence. I wonder if I've still got it in here. I'll have to dig it up as we're looking through. But what do you think, Erika? I mean, kids have that ability innately, it seems. Should we be helping them thrive with it? Should we just let them be for a while and then have them revisit it as they get older?
No, I definitely echo what Cindy has said, and that I do think it's super important that we acknowledge and hear them. This isn't, in my opinion, this is a natural part of who we are. Mm-hmm. And so to deny it or to, say, wait, you can't develop this until you're older, only stifles and causes more confusion from my perspective. So totally agree with Cindy, and mentoring and helping them understand what's going on. And then your book sounds like it has some great insight to that too. So
and a little insight to last week's episode as well. So showing you how to get false positives and how to be careful when you investigate. But
can I answer a quick question? Oh, sorry, Dave.
Yeah, please go ahead. I was just going to say, make sure you can find Cindy at mediumcindykaza.com and Erika Frost, ERIKA Frost.com for those two websites. Please go ahead.
Yeah, somebody, Bill Wolf was saying, can you explain seeing ghost? I can't quite grasp seeing it in your mind, right? So that's a really good question. So the way mediums receive information, we receive it in several different ways. There's clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. There's clairaudience, which is clear hearing. Clairsentience, clear fearing, clear knowing. There's all these different clairs, right? So clairvoyance is the seeing. So if you can imagine thinking of an image of your loved one in your mind, that's how we typically see spirits. We can see how they look. But then you can also see them where, take that mental image and project it to an area of the room. That's how we know where they are. So it's like a mental projection in your mind, I guess. Would you see in the same way, Erika?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you definitely described it perfectly. And it is like as though you think of a loved one and then you can see them in your mind's eye. And yeah, 100% super clear.
Yeah. And, Dave, I think it's a good point when you say everybody has this ability, or everybody, in Erika too, right? We all have this ability to a degree. And I think everybody watching should recognize that, because I don't necessarily think mediumship is like this special gift that only a few people have. I think the way I operate is, my job is done when nobody has to come see me anymore because you're all open. Like, that would be amazing, right? That's what our jobs are done. Waking all of you up so you can talk to your own dead relatives,
right. For sure.
Mario has a question. I know he's been kind of in touch with me. Again, not a clairvoyant, not mediumistic myself. He had been reaching out that he and his wife are having issues getting scratches and bruises that they can't explain. They've tried Michael the Archangel's prayer, and it just seems to have pissed something off. Psychically, what would you do to tell people how to protect themselves from these type of attacks?
Go ahead, Erika.
So for me personally, what I've discovered is faith is the largest key component. So whatever a person believes in is what's most important for them to call upon to energetically block themselves. And that was the missing link for me, and understanding that, we have different understandings for a reason. So I always recommend call upon your faith, trust in that. And then, beyond that, we can begin to move into the more of the quantum physics and, multidimensional universe aspects and layers to then create more boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there any immediacy? Like I said, Michael the Archangel prayer is what I know to be one of the most powerful for helping people do that. Now, if they don't necessarily have that belief system, what should they do so they're not in an Amityville type situation? Burn the house down?
I suppose that's a start. No. So if you're Buddhist, for example, you recognize energies from a different perspective, and you learn to move within and grow that energetic space, chanting and doing those things that will build the walls, so to speak, of protection. And Cindy might have more thoughts on that.
Well, gosh, I'm trying to like condense this so it doesn't get so out there and so like, because it can get really out there. Yeah. But here's the thing, I think there's something else to look at when you're having those experiences too. If we're going internal, and I'm not saying this is what's happening in your situation, but what is going on internally maybe or in your household that could be creating an energetic? Is there any dysfunction going on? Is there any addiction? Is there anything that could be creating this energetic? Because that can happen too. And a lot of times people will, push things onto, demons or paranormal when you have to look at all of the factors, right? Yeah.
And living in a place of fear. We talk about it on the show a lot, setting your intention. Don't live in a place of fear. Don't constantly give power to that. We are more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. And sometimes it's just as simple as literally envisioning meditation and envisioning yourself surrounded in white light, breathing that white light or golden light in and protecting, pushing it out and creating boundaries for yourself. It's like dealing with an abusive person in your life. You have to start putting up those boundaries and walls and separating yourself from them. You can't keep leaning back into them because that's when things go horribly wrong. But positivity, lifting the vibration, if you're both living in a constant state, and listen, we're all in a shit world right now where it comes to being quarantined, not getting to live a regular life. A lot of us can feel overwhelmed by that. And it can put us in the dark places. Find happy spots, find music that makes your soul happy, dance and laugh together, watch stupid movies, do things to get the energy up and in a different place. And I don't know if you guys find that as a good protection, but that's, I don't ascribe to a demon in every cabinet kind of situation. And if it is happening to you, sometimes I'm not putting the blame on you. Sometimes you've got to lift yourself up and start taking that power back.
Well, can I add something to that too? Because I agree with you, but there's also something in acknowledging the shadow aspect of all of us, because the more you run from that, the larger it becomes. So there's an aspect of acknowledging what's there and what's possible in that space without looking at it from a place of fear, because the tendency in our culture is to not do that, is to avoid, right? Avoid. Yeah. Oh, happy, be happy, uplifting, avoid. And that's when things get really weird, and that's when people self-medicate, and that's when people get depressed. And that's when all of these things happen that create this quote unquote darkness. But the reality of it is in the world, in the universe, and whatever you want to call all of this, there's both aspects. There's light and shadow, and there's a balance. Yeah. So yeah.
And the only darkness you should be letting in is this Darkness Radio every week. Make sure you tune in and check it out. Cindy Brown asks, when you work in such a haunted location like the Queen Mary, will you ever get used to the intense amount of paranormal?
That's for you, Erika, because you worked there.
Yeah. I think that's 100% yes. And then that's what happened. I got so used to the energetics and the energies, I let my guards down. And, it's like getting comfortable with a dysfunctional family. And then, you start enabling and you start playing into the trickeries and the games of the dysfunctional family. And so, I started out in the very beginning terrified, honestly. I was like, what have I signed up for? I don't think I can do this. And how am I going to make this work? And then it just sort of transitioned into, no fear. I would often walk the ship alone after, 3:00 in the morning after a investigation, or get one of the security guards to take me back down into what we called the pit of hell, and for amusement. And so it started to become normal when really it shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to mention, people asked me quite a bit this week, why didn't you guys talk about the young seamen that have been crushed in the door? Why didn't you talk more about Jackie? Why didn't you talk about the wounded prisoners of war? Mainly because every other show has and covered it intensely. We were there looking at this more dark, malevolent haunting that seems to be growing, trying to get an understanding of what was there and why retread the stories. The whole idea behind Dr. Hans Holzer was digging deeper, trying to find another element that maybe somebody had overlooked before. So that's why. And then I also wanted to mention, talking about walking the ship, again, when you watch the footage of me when I come out of that room, if you're questioning at all how dark it is, when it looks light, because we've got an IR light, not a regular light, IR, which to your naked eye, you cannot see. It is pitch black. You could see that exit sign all the way at the end of the hall. That gave a little bit of light, but then what would happen is behind it became even darker because that little light would make everything else behind it creepier. But look at my eyes. When I've got the camera on me, you can see my pupils are huge because not because I'm on dope, but because I was.
Yeah, right, Dave.
But because it was so damn dark in there. And all the light you see is the reflection of the IR light moving around on things. It was really terrifying. Thank you for the question, Cindy. Good hearing from you. Christopher Reed asks, what's your book called, Dave? I like that question, Christopher. It's called The Other Side, a guide to ghost hunting and the paranormal. And something, I don't even know if you knew about this, Cindy. This book's a couple of years old, but this book came out right after the death of Dr. Holzer, and we actually dedicated the book. It says,
that's so cool.
It says, to the original ghost hunter and the one who popularized the phrase "the other side." Now you know the answers to the mysteries you studied for many years. Your influence in the world of paranormal reach cannot be underestimated. You will be dearly missed. So that's the book as well. But thank you for asking. And again, if you're interested in buying the set from me, just email me, dave@darknessradio.com, and we'll send you the invoice. You can do that. What is this one? There was another one in here I saw that I wanted to make sure we get to. How do you know if your child does have mediumship abilities? Lori wants to know. My grandson is always talking about the people that no one else sees.
Ding, ding, ding. That's probably like...
That'd be the big clip. Yep.
I think everybody has mediumistic abilities. I think children are just entirely more open because of the space they're in mentally. They're more in the imagination. And no, that doesn't mean we're imagining things, but it's a different space. As we get older, we go more into analyzing everything or thinking about tomorrow or yesterday. And kids are very present. So that's the space, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. They're in the creative space, which I love.
And be respectful, but also do not lead your children. I'm very cautious. Listen, my kids could be seeing ghosts everywhere because of who I am, but I never made it a big thing. If they had questions, I would answer it. And I just made it seem like it was just another part of life so that they wouldn't be afraid. And they don't walk in fear. I mean, all kids walk through those moments, but my kids like it dark. They're not afraid. And when they do, they know they've got their ass kicking Darkness Radio daddy to take care of them. So that's a good stuff. Jen wants to know, what are shadow people? I had one in my room last night.
Go ahead, Erika.
Yeah.
Well, I know that's a big question.
It is a big question. It really is. And one that we've actually been talking about. I have a colleague and I talk on our own podcast about these same topics. So it's a big question. There's a lot of layers and also a lot of theories on it too. So I'll leave that.
Are they interdimensional beings? Is it your own shadow as a projection? What is it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
One thing I've mentioned to people is, what is the initial, once you get over that shock and awe, do you just kind of roll over and go to sleep? I would say that then your senses are telling you it's nothing dangerous. And it's amazing to me how many women tell me they wake up to see shadow figures looming in their room and they're like, oh. Right. But if they woke up and Dave Schrader's standing there at the end of the bed, there's screams and yells and all kinds of police action. But if you're getting a bad vibe, it's probably something negative. Listen, we're one of our most vulnerable points is when we sleep, right? If we're astral projecting, we're out maybe these are our guardians and they're there to watch over us in our sleep. And that's why when you wake up and you see it, once you get past that initial startle, there's really not much fear. Now, if it starts glowing red eyes, which some have, or the Hat Man, then those stories seem to take on a different aspect. So just be cautious. And again, don't live in fear. If it's just there, it may just be there to watch over and protect you. Courtney Murphy says, my grandmother came to America from England on the Queen Mary in the 1940s. I even have a couple of the menus that she kept. I visited the ship as a little girl and would love to go back and visit again. And I'll tell you what, I stopped Darkness Radio events 10 years ago. 9 years ago. It'll be 10 years in 2022. But being back aboard made me realize I want to get back on and do this. So we're going to, as soon as COVID lifts and people are safe, I'm going to start launching Darkness Radio events so that you can come meet the Holzer Files casts and casts of your favorite shows. And we're going to start doing these fun events again. And we'll get Erika Frost out there, and we'll have her and Cindy square off in a medium
that'd be so fun
match.
I'm in.
We'll see if they can,
We'll
who
square
can
off.
blow each other's head off first.
Collaborate.
Yeah, collaborate. Exactly.
Sarah Payne, yes, great question. What is your podcast, Erika?
Oh, thanks for asking that. It's a new podcast, still in the works. It's Mystical Magical Creatures, and we focus on more of the lighter and brighter aspects of the energetics that exist out there. Everything from, we do talk about ghosts, but also fairies and you pretty much, you name it, mystical, magical, and if it's a creature. And we have guests come on and share their stories. We want to give a way for people to have a voice.
All right, I've got to ask you then, Sarah, or not Sarah, Erika, fairies. I've had experiences on the Queen Mary multiple times. Once I was down in the hole with Grant Wilson. We were just sitting there alone, just kind of breathing in the atmosphere, waiting, hoping to have an experience. And in the middle of the sky, we just saw like sparkles, like Tinkerbell flew in and hit it with her magic wand. We just saw
yeah.
But there's nothing. There's no electrical cords. Nothing. It was just, and then we'd see him popping off in there. Is this fairies, or is that Hollywoodized, or is this an energy portal or something opening? What do you know it to be?
I think it's like you said, an energy portal. It's an expansion of energy, things moving and bursting from like an anatomic perspective, I guess, like things kind of exploding. But also with the fairies, I've done a lot around fairy research too, and there is some element to that as well. So it's quite fascinating.
Very cool. Angel says, why does Cindy wear glasses? Well, because we all made sure to wear our black glasses.
No, right? No, I'm wearing blue blockers because I'm in school, online school, and I'm staring at a screen all day and then doing this and my eyes are fried. So they're blue blockers. Yeah.
Coordinated with Erika and I. She didn't know.
Right? I know. I was like, everyone's wearing glasses. No, because your eyes, like really staring at a screen all day, your eyes get so exhausted. So.
Jen says, I have fairies in my garden. There's more than you realize. I believe they are interdimensional. I'll tell you, before we wrap up, fairies, right? When I started this, I'm like, that's where I draw the line. Come on. But I was out in Savannah, Georgia, and I was doing photographs outside by a garden at night, and there was a black garbage can. It was a matte black garbage can. And I took a series of 3 pictures, and in one picture, there is this, it looks like the little FTD florist man. You see this little sprite like running, and it's in air. And I'm like, what the did I just catch? And I was asking, I'm like, did I just catch a picture of a fairy? And everybody's like, get out of here. But when you blow it up, you'd think it would get worse. It got better. Unfortunately, it was on an old cell phone from, 12, 13 years ago. So I've lost it, but it was crazy. It looked like the FTD florist guy, the little Mercury blasting past. I have no excuse for it. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I love that, Dave, so much. You have no idea. I actually built a little fairy house, and I'm going to do a live feed with a camera because while I was working on it, I put a little door on hinges so it could move. And it actually, I closed it and I went to bed and I woke up, and I kid you not, that door, little tiny door, was popped open as though something had decided to go inside and check it out. And so I'm super curious to see if we can catch what your camera caught, the little energies that move through.
I'll have to send you off air. When I was in Ireland, I had an experience. Again, the whole kind of concept of fairies sounds silly to me, right? Because I'm thinking Tinkerbell. But there's this professor who's taking photographs, and you see these fairies. They're backlit with the sun, and holy crap, they're fairies. And I'm like, we're walking at this castle. We're walking through the field to go check this one area, and out of the grass, boom, these fairies jump up. I kid you not. Hand to God, fairies are flying in front of me. You could see their legs dangling, their arms, their wings. Yeah. They look like Tinkerbell. And I'm like, no, what are we looking at? And I'm like, hey, because they're all looking for ghosts. I'm like, turn around. And the guide's like, but I followed one. and it landed on the wall. And I went over and I finally found it and took a picture, and it's this huge mosquito looking thing. and I swear to God, when it jumps up, its long legs and arms are dangling. It looks human.
Yeah.
And I go over to the guy, I go, oh, what a disappointment. He goes, what's a disappointment? And I said, well, it's just a giant bug. He goes, or that's what it wants you to see. And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, well, they take the shape of birds and rabbits, and maybe that just is what they wanted you to see it as. It's a big mosquito. And I'm like, all right, I'll buy into it. That was a pretty cool experience. So it's neat. Ladies, I know I've kept you longer than I expected, and the audience has been great. Thank you all for chiming in and being a part of this. Let me get back over to the screen so I can make sure I've got all of your stuff up there. If you want more information on Erika Frost and on the work that she does and life coaching and her podcast, you can find it at erikafrost.com. Erika, it's always a pleasure catching up with you. Thank you so much for coming on and being here with us this evening.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. It's great to catch up with you as well, and super nice to meet you, Cindy.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
And you know her, you love her, you see her shine every week on the Holzer Files. The second most sensitive person next to Shane on the episodes, Cindy Kaza, and she does online Zoom classes to teach mediumship and how to understand your abilities, and she does multiple classes so that once you've kind of gone through one evolution, she takes you through more. So if you want more information, check out her website.
And actually on my Facebook, because all of my courses are posted to Medium Cindy Kaza on Facebook and on Instagram. So I teach like 1-day courses, I teach month-long mentorships, and I'm doing all that stuff and live events on Zoom. Yeah.
Very cool. Remember, next week, this Saturday, Devil in the Rock, Season 2, Episode 13, our season finale. The big one is here, and next Thursday we'll be doing the season finale wrap-up. I know our director of photography, Rob Toth, is going to join me. Shane is going to try to get in if he's not underwater in Georgia. Cindy, if you're around, we'd love to have you for the season finale.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, I was even thinking of asking our sound guy.
Oh, Danny Hammer, my boyfriend. Yeah. Danny, are you listening?
Yeah. So maybe we could, because I just thought it'd be fun to have some of the behind the scenes people join us to talk about what it's like to be on these episodes and do what they can. So you could check that out. Season 1 and 2 of the Holzer Files streaming now on Discovery Plus. New episode airs this Saturday. Watch them over, share them with your friends, neighbors, relatives. Go over to the neighbors' houses, turn on their TVs and set it so that they're watching the show. Make it happen. And remember, the best in paranormal talk radio, you can tune into us every week. And after the season finale, we will be continuing Holzer's Ghosts because we're going to go back to season 1 and finish up the last 5 or 6 episodes we didn't already cover in a Holzer's Ghost episode. And I'm going to make a cool announcement tonight. We have a special edition of Holzer's Ghosts, Amityville. We're going to be talking with Laura DiDio, who is the reporter that was first on the scene for the Amityville case. We're going to talk with Tim Yancey, a good friend of mine who is friends with George Lutz and is going to give us some perspective. We're going to talk to somebody who's been in the house recently and will tell us what they experienced in the Amityville house. We've got the director and producer of My Amityville Horror, who is going to join us as well. So we've got a lot of great guests that are going to be coming up on that. And it's an episode you'll never get to see on Holzer Files because they don't allow filming in the home. But we're going to talk about it because it was an integral case in Hans Holzer's career. So I want to make sure we do that. So that's going to be a special episode of Darkness Radio Presents Holzer's Ghosts Amityville. So keep watching for that as well. Remember, if you want the book, the autograph card, and the decal, email me, dave@darknessradio.com. Stay safe, everybody. We will be back with you next week for more of the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave Schrader. That's Cindy Kaza. That's Erika Frost. Tim back in the shop. Thank you for tuning in to Darkness Radio.